how to pass journal entries for bad debts and bad debts recovered. Well, before starting, what is bad debts and what is bad debt recovered? Well, to enhance our business, the manufacturer or the businessman sells his goods on credit basis, where the rules are after a period of time, the customer has to pay the amount to the businessman. Well, the same applies for the businessman. If he has made any credit purchase from other trader, he has to pay the amount. But when a customer is not able to pay the amount due, he is not in a position to pay the amount, maybe because of his financial circumstances, then the amount which is due on him is written off as bad debts in the books of accounts of the businessman. For instance, Mr. A had purchased goods of rupees 25,000 from us with a credit period of 1 month, but is now insolvent and is not able to pay any amount of rupees 25,000 even after 4 months of the credit period being passed away. Then, as a businessman, I will have to record this amount of rupees 25,000 as a loss amount in my books of account under the name bad debts and close Mr. A's account. This is how the account of the debtor Mr. A. Mr. A was our debtor because initially he had purchased from us on credit basis and he was our debtor because he would have paid the amount. But now as his situation is not proper, he is not able to pay. And so the debtor's account will be credited and his account will be closed and the amount due on him will be considered as bad debts. So the entry for bad debts will go as for Mr. A will be bad debt account debit rupees 25,000 to Mr. A's account rupees 25,000 credit. Here the account of Mr. A will be closed forever as he has become insolvent and there is no chance of receiving any amount from him, and the amount will be recorded as bad debt. So the entry will be bad debts account debit to Mr. A's account. When we when the debtor's account is credited, the balance of debtors reduce. So the debtor's account as here is credited, so his account will be closed now. And bad debts is not an expense, that has to be noted here. Bad debts is never an expense, but it is a loss of the business, due to which it has to be debited always. Now, what about bad debts being occurred for an amount? For instance, Mr. A only. Let's take Mr. A. Mr. A had purchased 25,000 of goods for a credit period of 1 month and he is now not able to pay the amount completely even after 4 months, but he is in a position to pay 5,000 to us and the remaining 20,000 is not we are not able to recover it from Mr. A. Then we have to write off rupees 20,000 as bad debts and the amount of 5,000 as the cash received to us, and Mr. A's account will be again closed. So the entry for the transaction where Mr. A has become insolvent and only 5,000 can be recovered from him on the credit sales done by us. So we'll get the cash of rupees 5,000 from him. So the cash account will be debited. Then the remaining will be bad debts will be debited for rupees 20,000 and Mr. A's account will be credited with the whole amount of 25,000. Here the cash is received for rupees 5,000. The remaining of 20,000 from the balance of 25,000, this 20,000 will be written off as bad debts and Mr. A's account will be credited and the account will be closed. This was the entry for bad debts. Now let's see what entry we need to do for bad debts recovered. Well, first of all, what is bad debts recovered? Bad debts recovered is that concept where once we have written off as a person, for instance, a person has been insolvent and we have written off the amount due on him as bad debts earlier. And now, as maybe his position has become better than before, he is willing to pay us an amount from the written off money. At this moment, the amount received by us in terms of cash or check will be debited and the person's account won't be considered here, but the process of getting it is known as bad debts recovered. So, the bad debts recovered account will be credited. For instance, we have written off rupees 20,000 of Mr. A in the earlier, for the bad debts we had taken the instance of Mr. A. So, let's continue the same. Mr. A's account was credited with 25,000 where 5,000 he had given it to us and bad debts was written for rupees 20,000. Now, Mr. A has stabilized himself and is now in a position to pay us back 10,000 from the balance of 20,000. So, from the bad debts written off of rupees 20,000, he is now willing to pay us 10,000. So, we are receiving 10,000. So, the transaction is rupees 10,000 received, which was written off earlier by the name of Mr. A. So, the transaction will go as cash is coming into the business. So, cash account debit rupees 10,000 to never ever can a customer's account or a debtor's account which has been closed be written or credited in the recovery period. Like when a bad debts written off is recovered back, never can the person's account be opened again because it has been closed. And so, bad debts recovered account will be opened or bad debts returned account will come. So, here cash of rupees 10,000 is received from Mr. A, which was written off as bad debts. So, it is bad debts returned or bad debts recovered. So, the entry will be cash account debit rupees 10,000 to bad debts return account rupees 10,000. Being bad debts return received from Mr. A for rupees 10,000. This is the entry for bad debts recovered. When a customer or a debtor is not in a position to pay the amount due on him, he becomes the amount becomes a bad debt and the person's account is closed forever. And after a few period of time, and if the person is willing to pay or any other person whose amount has been written off as bad debt has paid us an amount, then that amount is considered as bad debts recovered. So friends, hope so you would have understood this concept of bad debts and bad debts recovered and the entries to be passed for in journal book. So please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.